How's it going, everybody? My name is Shane from Americana Leather Co. and today we're going to be making a holster for the Colt King Cobra 357. Now, I didn't put this in the video, but you're supposed to trace the gun on there first. And what I'm doing here now is I'm taking the same leather, 7 to 8 ounce Permanent Oak leather, just a veg tan, and I'm marking where that leather lies over the gun on all the different frame width points. And then I center the widest point measured top of the gun. And you draw these vertical lines. Try best to make them parallel. And then you take those marks and you transfer those over to the corresponding parts. Here I'm starting to sketch that stitch line in. What I'm doing now is I'm making a space about 1/4 inch for the sight channel. And tidying up my work. And then I just do vertical lines for the degree of cant. And then I just start sketching what the front of my holster is going to look like. And this is going to be a pancake holster, and the back of it's going to be flat. So most of the molding is going to be done towards the front. That's what I came out with. Now I'm just going to cut that out. Then you got to redraw or retrace the pistol onto another sheet of paper. And about 3/16 of an inch. You're going to do those lines there. And this is going to be the back. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm matching up those stitch lines from the first piece onto the second piece for the back. And then I trace those in. And then you just draw the rest of what the back's going to look like. Got to be careful there because sometimes on striker fire pistols and stuff like that, you have the mag release button, and you don't want to get that. You don't want to cover that. And then you cut that out as well. And then you have both front and back pieces. And now I'm drawing the reinforcement panel for the front part. And I cut that out. When I trace this on the leather, I just glue it back on there, and you can see there I had both pieces. And the reinforcement panel is going to have 5 to 6 ounce veg tan, and then the elephant is going to be glued on top of that, stitched onto the top of the holster. And you just got to cut out all your pieces now, all the front part of the holster, the back part, the elephant, which I'm about to pull out now. Beautiful piece I got from an online distributor that'll be in the link. Sizing it up, applied my glue, save that for later, and we'll glue that while it dries. What I'm doing now is I'm trimming up the pieces here, but I'm going to transfer these stitch lines onto the front and the back of each side of the holster. Reason being, the front, obviously you got to have the stitch lines in there, and then for the back you need to know where your glue is going to go. You don't want to overdo that because then you won't get a holster that fits. So I do that here onto the back. I recommend just taking a pencil or a pen and marking those so you know where they're at for later. probably should do it with a pen, because if you die over it, you're not going to see the pencil. So. Taking my stitch groover, doing all those lines that I drew in. And at the time of recording this, it definitely needed a new stitch groover blade. Mine's getting dull. I make quite a bit of holsters, so. And that's what it should look like. Alright, back to that elephant piece onto that 5 to 6 ounce veg tan. Glue that on, hammer it up. That really seals the pieces together. And what I'm using is Bar's contact cement. Trim that off of there. Then do all the sanding. My Dremel. 200, 250 grit. That's good enough for the veg tan, in my opinion, to burnish. And I do a lot of hand sanding. You want to do all the openings on the front and the back of the holster, besides the part where you do the reinforcement panel, because if you glue that on there and stitch it, you're going to have to resand and correct those edges anyway. So that's why I don't do that part. And then I burnish the tops, the bottoms that need to be done. And that's just tokenol and water and a pen. It's a lot easier to apply, in my opinion. If I get it on my fingers and it gets on, you know, a place where you don't want it, sometimes the dye will make it glossy and it'll sit on top and it just won't look great. So you want to be careful when you apply that. Now I'm doing the reinforcement panel. I'm drawing these lines around it with my awl so I know where to put my glue. But before gluing, I need to do the edges of this reinforcement panel. I'm going to dye them really quick and then burnish. And I will stamp my logo on the back. And I'm going to do little holes for the belt slots now. I don't have a oblong punch for these slots that I want. I have a larger one, but it's not the exact specifications I want. A little bit over 1.5 inches and a little bit more than 1/4 inch, if I can, of width. That leeway is good, especially for, like, you know, 10 to 15 ounce belts for gun belts. And then I'm going to draw and stitch groove these stitch lines in that are going to go around the belt slots. And the dyeing process. I don't get dye where that reinforcement panel is going to go, just because the glue won't stick as well, and you won't have to, you know, scratch that up too much to get the dye, or I mean the glue applied. And I'm going to dye the insides and the edges of this, right where those lines that I drew in the beginning are at. Purely cosmetic. And we're going to glue and stitch that reinforcement panel on the front of that holster. I'm going to hammer it down, get a good seal on it, and it's all stitched up. And we're going to do the edges. Take my Dremel, and then work our way through the grits of sandpaper and edge bevel. And then we're going to burnish it, and then dye it, and then wait for it to dry, and then we're going to burnish it one more time. What I'm doing here is wetting those stitches and then hammering them down. It lays those stitches flat. With holsters, you don't want, your stitches popping out. One, it doesn't look good, and two, with most pistols, they're going to grab on, especially the ejection port of a striker fire pistol. And we can go ahead and move on to the gluing and stitching process to get the actual holster together. And I'm wetting this top part so it creates that pocket, because the back part of this holster is, remember we did those little lines that are closer to the gun, about 3/16 of an inch, so that way it creates that front pocket. So it's a lot harder to put this together and stitch together if that front pocket is not malleable and movable, so that's why we wet it. Put those together, hammer it, stitch it up. And hammering again. My camera fell down. I'm working on better angles, but I'm just working with what I got right now. But hopefully I'll get a better tripod in the future. You'll be able to see a little bit more. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Wetting that again so that way I can get it to move a little bit more. And it's all stitched up. Ready for the edges to be done again. Just like before, take the Dremel, work through my grains of sandpaper, bevel, and then sand again. Next, we're going to mold the holster. I took that dowel rod and I stuck it through the sight channel. And what I have here is a 12-ton press and some Hobby Lobby foam. And I leave it in there for about 15 minutes. You can do the vacuum seal thing too. I just had access to this, and I did the vacuum seal before and I did not like it. This is a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and take this out. Again, it's been about 15 minutes. We're going to go to it. My holster was a little bit wet. It's 32 degrees in my garage, so it wasn't quite the dampness that I wanted of leather, so it didn't take tooling very well, but I did spend a good amount of time after the video was taken tooling this. Because when it gets to a, kind of a perfect moisture, it tools really, really well, especially Herman Oak. Really get that trigger guard in front of the trigger, you get a lot of retention area. We're going to sand and then burnish those slots that I cut out after it was dry. So this is a day later. Now we're going to do the edge dye and some dye correction with my airbrush. And then we're going to buff it. for the Resolene process, or the sealing process. This is Fiebing's Resolene, 25% water. And, you know, if you've done any leatherworking projects with this, you know that it's a pain in the butt. I think the first project I ever did, I turned it like this sheen of blue just because I didn't know what the heck I was doing with it. And I didn't dilute it at all. Not that you need to. I've done it without before, but it just makes the process a little bit easier getting those coats on, which I do anywhere between 2 and, depending on how shiny I want it, 4. And then you got to get the inside. There's a lot of abrasion in there from the pistol going in and out, so you just want to keep that protected. Okay, that's beautiful. So, if you made it through this video, thank you so much. I am relatively new to leatherworking, about 2 years now, and it takes a enormous amount of time to film these videos, and I hope you guys learned something from it. Good retention right there. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.